So now statement 9 and 10 of Gongchik, chapter 5. Statement 9 and 10 has to do with clarifying, refining our understanding of the methods given in the creation and completion stages of Vajrayana practice. And especially how we should understand the creation and completion stages, which are the two stages. Generally, we say the two stages of deity yoga is creation and completion. And how we should understand that. We have already looked at, prior to these two statements related to how we should understand the deities, the Buddhas that we meditate on, the Buddhas that we take as idam. What kind of idam is reliable and without faults? Then what kind of idam practice that, might be, you could say, you're now on your own. So it's emphasizing, don't like go chasing after, people saying, oh, I have a very special idam that, nobody really knows about, So that's why it says, no, rely on what's clearly taught and, clearly accepted by basically everyone. That this is, yes, this deity, this Buddha was taught in this tantra or that tantra, rather than running after obscure deities that this or that great Lama might say, oh, I got this vision and therefore it's, the deity is this, this new color or this new implement that this deity, Avalokiteshvara holds. And then you cannot find, in the generally accepted places. Then it's like, don't do that. Yeah. Now, of course, this advice is given within the background where there are many cases of lamas and great practitioners revealing some pure vision that they had. Yeah? So it's not a clear cut. It's not saying absolutely these pure visions are wrong, but it is advising us on what to take as principle and what to take as secondary. So principle has to be that which is no doubts. People are not arguing, because in part it's also our minds and how superstitious we are, so to say, that we might have doubts arising. Oh, is it or is it not? Then it's just very counterproductive, right? So anyway, the last few statements pertains to refining our understanding of these Buddhas, of these deities. And then we got into, also a point was brought up about how should we depict gurus. So back in the day, where there's no photography in the 12th century, then it's talking about how do you paint the gurus. And so here, Kyopa's advice and the commentaries, Kyopa don't specifically say guru, but the commentaries say, let's not, basically what the commentaries are saying, let's not take photos of gurus and put them on the shrine. Right? Do you get that point? I mean, if you were to translate, it's basically saying, don't take photos of gurus and put them on the shrine. Because in the 12th century, they're saying to people, right? The commentaries say, don't paint your guru the way that he normally appears to your normal, ordinary eyes. So from the artistic perspective, you might say, oh, that's too bad, you know. If people didn't paint Jigten Sumgun according to how he looked, you know, today we have no idea how he looks. You know, we might say things like this, right? Or we might even say, oh, but if we paint the guru looking like Buddha Shakyamuni, then they all look like the same thing. Well, in a way, that's the point. The point is that we are not to follow we are not to follow human beings, meaning samsaric beings. Even when we say we rely on the guru, we rely on, say, the Dalai Lama, if you have a direct relationship, or whoever you relate to as a guru, that point there is really, it's not the human person. The human person that likes this and doesn't like that, eats this and doesn't eat that, wears this and doesn't wear that, drives this and doesn't drive that, is driven in this and not driven in that. That's not who we should be following. Now, of course, without a human like that, or without humans like that, we also cannot really follow the guru. So there is a very fine line between following a guru who is necessarily a human, but not let it turn into that human side. Then it's not really following a guru. So in the 12th century, where there's no photography, and when you are rich enough to say, I want a portrait of my guru, the commentaries are saying, yeah, but in that portrait, as much as possible, paint your guru, not in the way that your flesh eyes, your blood and flesh and whatever else I see your guru as, but paint the guru more along the lines of what is commonly accepted as the 32 major and minor marks, the 32 major and the 80 minor marks. I think it's also fair to say that when they talk about the 32 major and minor marks, right, no one is literally saying, oh, if you look at the Tanka of Buddha Shakyamuni, you will find 32 major and minor, 32 major and 80 minor marks. That you look at a well-painted Buddha Shakyamuni Tanka or a well-crafted Buddha Shakyamuni statue, right? You're like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, okay, 32 major. And then where are the 80? 1, 2, 3. Oh, 80. Oh, yes, this is a good statue. This is a good Tanka. 32 major, 80 minor, you can say it's just shorthand for saying what is commonly accepted as physical characteristics of what a Buddha looks like. Yeah, so when they say, right, all Idam deities have the 32 and 80, the 32 and the 80, we should not, I think, right, we should not take so literally that they're talking about. Yeah, because, for example, if you take a depiction of the deity Vajavarahi, right, I think most of you are familiar with that. And then you take a picture of Buddha Shakyamuni, right? And even if Buddha Shakyamuni is painted standing, like Vajavarahi is usually depicted, You put the two and you go, well, they don't really look similar. One of the marks is that, there's a Ushnisha. Where is Varahi's Ushnisha, right? So it's not saying, when they say, oh, Varahi has the 32 and 80. It's not literally saying, yeah, you have this checklist of the 112 and you check, oh, Varahi, oh, sorry, no 112, you're not valid. No, I'm not going to meditate on you anymore. That's not what they're saying, okay? So when they say 32 and 80, they're saying the signs that we have as generally accepted as Buddha signs, those signs have to be present. So then, back to the guru. So in the 12th century, if someone wants to sculpt an image of the guru, paint an image of the guru, you can imagine the conversation that takes place, right? Someone was like, oh, this artist can, make a very accurate portrait of the Lama. But nonetheless, it's the last couple of Vajra statements say, yes, this person, this painter might have the ability, but we don't want him to do that. Because as a support for our practice, the emphasis should not be the quirky oddities, what singles this person out as, oh, my guru. But rather, okay, paint this guru's portrait, but make sure that it resembles more what we expect a Buddha to look like, rather than the other way around. So like I said, it has implications for us to think about. I know, it's a trend since photography arrived, and then now digital, and then now 3D printing, and then now, all this technology to more and more to reproduce lamas, gurus in the more and more quote unquote realistic looking. We have to think about that. Yeah. So now they even have, of course, in some monasteries, recent lamas who have passed away, because the technology is very well developed in Thailand, which probably came from Madame Tussauds wax museum. Thailand very early on discovered how to replicate that. So Thailand started making, Thailand also has very strong kind of like magical or enlightened monks tradition. So Thai people really like statues of their lamas, of their teachers. And so in Thailand, they have like these, like lifelike, full human-sized statues of their, holy monks. So then Tibetan monasteries started to order these statues. So yeah, I mean, I have to say personally, it's kind of it's inspiring in some ways, yeah. So I think we should not dismiss, the reason why people do it. Yeah, and I think that's good to recognize too. But at the same time, this point, given in the 12th century, we should not forget that what we're following is not that human being. So then now, what I was going to say is, for monasteries or places where, that making that kind of statue is not cheap, So then now they print cutouts, full human-sized cutouts, of their lama, of their throne holder, of their holiness, and they put onto the throne, So it's a cutout, not just a frame, big portrait, which is more common. So now the next step is to print a wooden or a cardboard cutout of the Lama sitting on the throne. But don't get carried away, by that. Anyway, now statement 9 and 10. Yeah. All the detailed rituals are especially necessary for those with highest faculties. This is said in response to people claim that instant generation of a tantric deity is for those with highest faculties, and that since deity generation based on much ritual is for those with the lowest faculties, it is of no great importance. So in the 12th century, there's this view that very elaborate step-by-step way of practicing the creation stage, which is first meditate on emptiness. Out of emptiness, the space mandala first appears. So there's a shape for the space mandala and color. It says it's shaped like a bow. That means half a circle. This horizontal line and then round, a half a circle. As huge as you can imagine, because that is the space mandala, green in color. Then on top of that space mandala, slowly the fire mandala arises, which is triangular in shape, red in color. Then on top of that, the water mandala, white in color, round. Sorry, the green is not space mandala. Space mandala, no shape. That is the wind mandala. Yeah, I misspoke. Wind mandala, shaped like a bow, green in color. Space is no shape, no color, you could say. Then wind mandala, fire mandala, water mandala. And this is huge, right? As huge as possible, because this is the arising of the physical universe. Yeah. Then on top of the water mandala is the earth mandala, square in shape, yellow in color. Then on top of that, a great cosmic mountain arises. Then at the summit of the mountain appears the palace of the deity. Then step by step, So in very extensive sadhana practice, all these. So when they say rituals here, they're referring primarily to this. Yeah, we're not talking about like hosting a big ritual where, 50, 100 people have to be involved. Yeah, we're not really talking about that. We're talking about in your sadhana practice, very extensive sadhanas and very instantaneous sadhanas. Right? So here it says, all the detailed rituals, or all the more extensive the sadhana, it's even more beneficial for those with the highest faculties. This is said in response to the prevailing view, which says, if you are really advanced, you don't need all these details. You can go directly, called instant generation, instantaneous creation of the deity. They say that is for those who are highest. So these days in the West, especially, we also have that view because there are traditions, there are lamas, there are traditions that says, oh, that's the supreme way. Then, of course, because we are lazy, and we Americans, everything has to be fast. The microwave, trained us to think that way, I said, pop it in, pop it out, If in 3 minutes it's not boiling hot, then it's not good. Yeah, then even wine, right? Now there's like instant way of chilling wine. So, used to be that only in wine stores you can buy. Now you go to Amazon, you can buy one of those things, then you can instant chill, right? So you don't have to plan anything anymore. Everything is just in that moment. Everything is just, and guess what it's doing to us? It also turns us into very very impulsive. So then if our Dharma practice is also feeding that impulsiveness, and telling us, oh, the best one is, just instantaneous. Now, here we're not saying, like, oh, therefore, we should start with extensive. No. Actually, we should start with the instantaneous. But do it with the understanding that the reason why we do the simpler ones, where the deity just appears, or at most, from emptiness, seed syllable, light goes out, light comes back, and then deity, right? Recognize that is for beginners like us. Then the more extensive, the more detailed, becomes more useful later on. Subsequent to what? Subsequent to something very interesting. Actually, in the notes, Sobich brings that point out, and specifically, he credits Kenjen Rinpoche for explaining this in more detail. What is the main thing we should be working on first before we get into too much of the details of the deity generation stage or creation stage, which is necessary, which is powerful, which is something that we should do. But something else needs to be developed first. Yeah. So that's a very important and interesting point in the notes. But here, let's look at the commentary. Those of medium and lowest faculties hardly comprehend detailed rituals. For those with highest faculties, detailed rituals are very important, since in the best case, if someone has realized emptiness as cause and result, which is Kyoba Rinpoche's emphasis a lot. Just realizing emptiness, not complete yet. In fact, in his own biography, he said, in his, not autobiography, but the biography that his nephew wrote about him. That's the first and the oldest biography that exists, that his nephew, which is Sherab Jungne, the person who came up with all these statements, right? The person who recorded all these statements. In Sherab Jungne's biography of Kyoba, it says that when Kyoba Rinpoche arrived at his teacher Pamodrupa's place, and after a period of training with Pamodrupa, he achieved, some profound realization about emptiness. And then it says there, he thought, okay, I got it. I got it, because I have realized this emptiness so profoundly. But then later, I think after his teacher passed away, only later, thankfully, luckily, he further understood that is still, like you could say, a semicolon. That is not the full stop at the end of the sentence. That was just a semicolon. He had to continue to purify and continue to develop so that the final realization is not emptiness, but emptiness arising as cause and effect. So realizing emptiness is important, but subsequent to realizing emptiness, there is still further realizations to be achieved, which is the realization of how emptiness, how given emptiness, things interdependently arise. That is cause and effect. Yeah? Things interdependently arise. So here, yeah, if someone has realized emptiness as cause and result, he will produce each individual quality through all the various dependent originations of the ritual. Yeah, so all the detailed ways of creation stage given in extensive sadhanas, right? Each of those are the dependent originations, meaning the cause and effect. Yeah, so the cause is meditating on a green, bowl-shaped wind mandala. And that will give rise to a particular result, a particular purification. Now, it's saying here, but if we have not realized emptiness arising as cause and result, or even if we have no understanding of this principle of real emptiness arising as cause and result, then in a way, you could say, if you try to practice these details, you will just be, in my opinion, drowning in the details, right? You would just drown in the details because it's just overwhelming. And for many of us, we can't handle that, so we just don't even do that. And then we think, oh, the Supreme One is just resting empty. Because that's, very relaxing on some level, right? And you think, oh, that's the Buddha state. It's just empty. And no need to think about anything. Many of us are like this. But some of us go in the different direction. We try to do this very extensive and memorize everything, and then all we're doing is imposing on our mind this external structure. That is also a way of straying. That is also a way of getting trapped, being trapped and being misled. We looked at those, the strayings and the traps earlier in another Vajra statement. So these are strayings and traps. We can stray in the direction of being overwhelmed by the details and then concluding, actually, the higher state don't have these details. These details are only for the lower levels. So I'm now fine. I'm moving to the higher ones. That's a straying. That's going off course. Getting trapped is, again, without any understanding of emptiness arising as cause and result, even understanding, much less realization, emptiness arising as cause and result, we try to do the very detailed ones. Yeah? And we do the very detailed ones, we think it's working. But in fact, all we're doing is we are superimposing a rigid structure that is a trap. because we can get stuck in that and think, oh, yes, this is working. So here, concerning the especially great importance of detailed rituals, they have a great many purposes, such as causing the arising of inconceivably numerous qualities and activities. Through fully detailed performance of rituals, such as the colored sand mandalas, together with their limbs, even for beginners with higher faculties, these qualities and activities arise through the perfection of their dependent origination. Moreover, since the meaning of this is similar to the explanation of Supplement 33, no matter if the level is a meaning requiring further interpretation or a definitive meaning, the detailed rituals are necessary for all. And since it is easy to understand, this explanation would suffice. It's just Choda saying, there's another Vajra statement that talks about this, so I'm not going to say more. But the notes, as I say, Doja Sherab describes the view on the relationship between the disciples' faculties and the nature of the rituals in the following way. And so here is Doja Sherab in the 12th century, the oldest commentary, or one of the two oldest commentaries, say, in general, people hold that engagement in mantra Vajrayana is for people with the highest faculties. That Kyopa would agree. Yes, Vajrayana is for people who have developed to the point of having the highest faculties. Now, then within that supreme category, there are the supreme, average, and lower types. So first you have to qualify for Vajrayana practice, that you have developed to the point. When we say qualify, we don't mean miraculously qualify. It also, the implication is you have purified, you have developed over how many lifetimes. Now you're suitable for Vajrayana. Then within that category of being suitable for the Vajrayana, you can further divide into the supreme, the average, and the lower. Those with the lowest faculties must receive empowerment from the Guru through a colored sand mandala, which is the most elaborate of mandalas. According to this view, all this elaborate mandalas is only for those lowest or among those who have already have what it takes to practice Vajrayana, but nonetheless the lowest of that group. Then the average types receive it with the help of a drawing on a piece of cloth, meaning painted mandala. And the supreme ones only require a mandala made of small piles of substances, which is like a mandala plate, with 5 piles. Yeah, during the Medicine Buddha retreat, yes, I encourage you guys to do that. And in small empowerments, we do that. Yeah. So according to this view, the supreme ones use that, and not the colored sand mandala. Furthermore, those with the lowest faculties are to practice the complete stage of cultivation, the most detailed creation stage. The average ones are to perform their practice based on the seed syllable. So no need so much details. Green, wind mandala, bow-shaped, red, fire mandala, triangular shape. No need. Just the seed syllable. So wind syllable, yam. Oh, that's wind. Fire, ram syllable, enough. Then, for the supreme ones, instantaneous, perfect awareness suffices. Still furthermore, the lowest ones have to perform detailed rituals, the average ones medium rituals, and the supreme ones need no ritual at all, because as they are without conceptions and have exhausted mind and phenomena, instantaneous perfect awareness practice is enough. Or, if necessary, an abbreviated ritual can be performed. That's the prevailing view. And that view continues to today. I think many teachers actually teach like that. Now, it's not that we're criticizing and saying many teachers are wrong. Again, Kyoba is bringing a more kind of profound understanding. Yeah, Kyoba is saying actually it's the other way around. The details are not sort of like the details given are not details given for your confusion. The details given are details of the, you could say, the unimaginable view of a Buddha. Yeah, so this has implications on our understanding of what it means to be awake. Often, I think we have this concept like to be awake means, you don't see the differences anymore because there's so much talk about, right? Non-dual, oneness, blah, 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 all of that. So then we think the highest realization has no more distinctions. So then we think it's just this bleh. Or, just blinded by the light. It's all just light. But that is not Buddha wisdom. Buddha wisdom sees every single detail. It says like the Buddha wisdom can see each strand of a peacock's feather and all the colors in exact detail. Concerning those with the highest faculties, our commentaries stress that inconceivable activities and qualities arise as the result of detailed rituals when the adepts, when the experts, when those advanced practitioners perform them in a state of realized emptiness. So this is key. Realized emptiness. When your understanding of emptiness, the more profound your understanding of emptiness, then the more your ability to work with details. Within that state, all the very detailed dependent originations of cause and result will manifest, as in it will become very clear to you. And once it becomes clear to you, then you know the reasons why. Wind mandala is shaped like a bow, green in color, and how meditating on that will lead to what kind of quality arising in your mind. Meditating on a triangular fire mandala, red in color, what quality that will give rise in the mind. You become more appreciative of all the details, then your practice becomes more profound. But it says here, what is it that can lead to that? Not by memorizing, not by forcing yourself, that is the superimposing of a structure, but rather by a state of realized emptiness. So the next part is Khenchen Rinpoche explaining. The Dorshema mentions one further interesting aspect in some detail. Accordingly, concerning the ways of practicing the path, there is a principal and an ancillary way. So concerning how we practice, there is Always you have to think, not always, but you have to consider, what is the principle and what is the ancillary. Ancillary means kind of side, helpful side practices that you also bring together. So here, the principal practice done by a beginner, so all of us, is the direct realization of discriminative awareness. In other words, discriminative awareness of what? Awareness now, I don't like this word. Knowing. Clear knowing, discriminative awareness, clear knowing. Awareness is too passive, Especially these days, awareness is used by so many seemingly similar traditions of meditation, but they have different understanding, Awareness, we talk about, right? I think like in the pop culture presentation of like Mahamudra or Dzogchen, we say, just bare awareness. As in, there's no content and there's no clarity. Bare awareness. Maybe you'll have come across that term if you read a lot of these popular tricycle excerpts and, bare awareness, And this I appreciate. I think I mentioned that, there's the wisdom publication called the Wisdom Podcast. In the interviews with Malcolm Smith, one of the translators of Dzogchen texts, he says, Rigpa, translated as awareness. It's listening to his explanations that convinced me, like awareness is not a very good word now, because of how that word has been turned into so we think, awareness is just like this kind of neutral state. But Malcolm Smith's explanation has convinced me, knowing, although he doesn't use the word knowing, he keeps it in the Sanskrit, vidya. To vid is to know. Vidya. So the knowing mind. To know. So incidentally, very nicely for me at least, because I have a soft spot for this tradition, which is the Thai forest tradition. When they translate their literature into English, they also use the word knowing. The Buddha is the one who knows. To Bud and to Vid is closely related. It's all related to knowing. Not a passive state of mind. It's a active state of mind, but not in your way and my way of active state of mind, which is samsaric. But it's active, meaning dynamic, clear. So anyway, here, the principal practice done by a beginner is the direct realization of discriminative awareness. Khenchen Gongchik JAN Rinpoche pointed out that beginner here refers to a beginner on the path of Mahamudra. So we can say we are a beginner on the path of Mahamudra. But in fact, maybe we aren't even there yet. We are the beginner of the path of Mahamudra. So this principle and ancillary would apply to us. And direct realization of discriminative awareness refers to a realization of emptiness as cause and effect through an abiding in the nature, which means through having recognized the innate nature, right? And without leaving that understanding, to be able to see then now how everything arises without mistake, according to the principle of cause and effect. So Khenchen Rinpoche says, with regards to beginners of this type, and even us, beginner of the beginner the beginning stages of being a beginner on the path of Mahamudra, then our principal focus should be to develop this direct realization of discriminative awareness, which is a realization of emptiness as cause and effect. Dorje Sherab explains that those who have not obtained stability in this discriminative awareness, in this kind of knowing, should perform the deity practice as an ancillary to their main practice, which is, in that ancillary practice, they remain aware of the deity as they chiefly work to realize emptiness arising as cause and effect, discriminative awareness. Footnote. That is to say, the chief method of deity practice on this level is not an evocation ritual with many detailed branches, meaning not a sadhana with many detailed branches, but one where the focus is to remain chiefly aware of the body of the deity. The discriminative awareness arises from the single pointedness of the practice. Yeah, so instead of, looking for more and more complex and complicated sadhanas, sometimes we need a little bit of that, I would say, realistically, to kind of give some energy into our practice. But we should not lose sight of this point, which is mainly for most of us, is to remain chiefly aware, chiefly knowing that our true body, our true form, is identical to the idam, and develop single-pointed understanding of that, and by not forgetting the innate fundamental nature, which is emptiness arising as cause and effect. And so back to Sobish's notes. In that ancillary practice, they remain aware of the deity as they chiefly work to realize discriminative awareness. For that purpose, the stages of the ritual should be very condensed. Then, once they have mastered emptiness, actualizing all phenomena to be like space, within that state, they directly perceive the dependent origination of cause and result. And in that state, through detailed rituals, they practice the support that is the celestial palace, and the supported, namely the deities of the mandala, with all the various body colors and attributes. In summarizing, Dorje Sherab says, thus, through the vital point, through this crucial point of applying cause and result to emptiness, and of emptiness arising as cause and result, there is no chance that the result will not appear. Yeah, isn't this wonderful? Yeah, isn't this wonderful? I like this, Dorje Sherab. Through the vital point, the key point. And what is the key point? The key point of applying cause and result to emptiness, and of emptiness arising as cause and result. Then, if you have that, there is no chance that your practice will not bear fruit. then once they have mastered emptiness, actualizing all phenomena, as in directly being able to see that all phenomena, all appearances, all the things that turn up in our life to be like space. Then, when we have that, then within that state, within that realization, within that understanding, we can directly see the dependent origination of all the details given in the Buddha in the more and more extensive sadhanas. So begin now with a very simple deity practice, yeah, and understand that that deity practice is to help us, actually to help us as a support for realizing emptiness arising as cause and effect. And when our understanding of how emptiness arising as cause and effect, and applying cause and effect, cause and result to emptiness, as that becomes more and more stable, more and more clear, then we will naturally be able to use more detailed sadhanas and more detailed sadhanas. Then the details of the sadhanas will never exhaust us. In fact, we see layers and layers and layers of amazing beauty, so to say, of the practice. On the cultural level, many monasteries established in the West, or Dharma centers and all that, on the cultural level, there is the teaching of all these details in more detailed sadhana practice. I guess that's necessary because you want to kind of establish, Tibetan Buddhism more strongly in the West. So yeah, to some degree, I get it, that we do more detailed practices, impressive ritual events, 3 days, 2 days, whatever, 5 days, 7 days, we don't, as far as I know, our group, we don't do our centers, we don't do that, but there are, some very much more established centers and monasteries and retreat centers. They do very fancy things, but don't mistake that and think, oh, very profound practice is going on. Not necessarily. That's more just it's not bad by any means, but it's still just I feel it's it's creating the outer shell. Yeah, creating the outer shell. The contents are not necessarily there yet. If we look at these statements are more concerned about the contents and not the shell. So my personal kind of comments on this relating to Khenchen Rinpoche is over the years, I've been with Khenchen Rinpoche since 93, something like that. Over the years, not a long time, but not a short time. Over the years, I've seen how Rinpoche is emphasizing less and less detailed sadhana practice. And it's easy to misunderstand what's going on, for some people, myself included, without clearly understanding these points in the Gongchik, I thought, oh, Rinpoche is showing a more kind of profound way of practicing. Yes, but not in the sense that, oh, the simpler the things, the more profound. But more profound in the understanding of majority of us. This more detailed sadhanas, we cannot really digest. Our ability to digest that depends more on, depends largely on how well our understanding and realization of emptiness arising as cause and effect. The relationship between emptiness and cause and effect. And therefore, to seek to stabilize that. So yes, we still do deity practice, but rather than focusing on those details that we cannot digest right now, then we focus on the key points of deity practice, which is for the form to appear vividly, grasping needs to be relinquished. Fixation. Fixation on what? Fixation on this flesh and blood body, our identity being so much tethered to, chained to, identifying with this flesh and blood body, right? To untether, to unlink this, the more we de-link our sense of who we are on this body and mind, the more we cut that connection, by identifying our identity with Buddha, any of the idams, then the more, right? And right there we are already practicing emptiness arising as cause and effect, applying cause and effect to emptiness, and emptiness arising as cause and effect, cause and result. Yeah. If you try to think too much about it, you're like, what does it mean? Emptiness arises as cause and effect. Yeah, we can do some of the class where we can explain all of that, but really, with regards to the idam practice, that is what is going on. Idam practice is, from in this context, it is the applying of cause and result to emptiness, and emptiness arising as cause and result. These are looking at it from two directions. Yeah? So applying cause and result to emptiness, meaning, like in our deity practice, we begin Om Swabhava Shuddha Savadhamma Swabhava Shuddho Hang, right? The mantra for emptiness. There, as I said, even though we can go through a lot of philosophical details of what emptiness is, as an experience, right? Applied, right? So emptiness applied, right? You could say applied philosophy rather than abstract philosophy. When you apply that, it means give up fixation. Let go. Put it down. What do we put down? What will we let go? Whatever it is that we're fixating on. If that morning, we're occupied by, this news of what's happening in the world, or this news about what's happening to my health even, or a loved one, or a hated one, let go. Put it down. Not me, not mine. Om Swabhava Shuddha Savadhamma Swabhava Shuddho Hang. Then, simple sadhana will say from there, like what we did this morning, a very simple Avalokiteshvara arising, that is applying cause and result to emptiness. So then Avalokiteshvara arises, yourself as Avalokiteshvara arises. Then while there, Now is emptiness arising as cause and result. The interplay between the two. And now, within the state of emptiness, you are Avalokiteshvara. You are Avalokiteshvara does not cancel out the state of emptiness. Right there. That is mainly what we need to stabilize. That is mainly what we need to practice. And Doja Sherab says, thus, through the vital point of applying cause and result to emptiness, and of emptiness arising as cause and result, there is no chance that the result will not appear. In chapter 6, which we started, this series, applying cause and result to emptiness and emptiness arising as cause and result is discussed. The same principle is discussed on the level of ethical conduct. Yeah? So they are linked. So the implications of meditating in the creation stage, this statement applied in the creation stage plays out this way. And this vital point, rather, of applying cause and result to emptiness and of emptiness arising in cause and result, in the deity yoga practice, how the statement of this vital point plays out, we just discussed. In chapter 6, it pertains to conduct. It's view, meditation, conduct is the topic for chapter 6. There are vital points, statements given there that discusses how, on the level of the way we conduct ourselves in the world, the way we relate to others, the way we treat others, how this principle plays out. So deity practice is not just, rainbows and, rainbows and, I don't know, pink glitter. It has direct implications on our conduct. Questions or comments?
Dr. Lai, I have a photograph of my Lama on my shrine. Would it be
Don't worry about it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
My point is not to, we should not, my point is not like, oh, now you got to take everything down, That's like just another craziness.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, keep your Lama on your shrine, but always remember, what your Lama's form is pointing you towards is Buddha qualities.
Okay.
Yeah, don't get too, it's like, it's in the Zen expression, right? It's like, don't mistake the finger for the moon. Yeah, always remember when you look at the finger, don't get obsessed about the finger, See where the finger is pointing to. Likewise, now we have photographs. Yes, So because now you have photograph, then, that's the finger that you have. But remember, that's the finger. That's not the moon. Yeah. And then my statement is also made to caution if we're going to have a fancy center or whatever, and then people are like, oh, we should have a big portrait of the guru and this and that. Don't go overboard on that because then we might communicate to other people who don't understand that this is some sort of cult worship, And I know you, Pete, you've been around long enough and you've seen those kinds of things happening, where devotion to the guru turns into some crazy cult.
Right. Personality kind of
Yeah,
thing.
personality code. And, so to hear it, it's so clearly saying, don't do that, right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
neither do I feel like, okay, now all of you, let's, get rid of, no, 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 just remember, those are fingers, not moon. And then so also many of you don't have photos of gurus, like prominently on your shrine and everything. Yeah. Then yeah, don't feel like, don't succumb under pressure, like, oh, that's a way of like, being a good student. I put my lama's picture on my shrine. If you don't have, no need to put. If you have, no need to remove. Just what needs to shift is our understanding.
Mm.
Yeah. I'm partial, you all know that, I'm partial to Gongchik, and I think it's so amazing. Right? It's so amazing. It really helps me to navigate, all the things that we are hearing. And, there are a lot of different expressions of the Dharma for sure, but Gongchik really helps us clarify. Even things that are commonly said by, like this great teacher or that great teacher. It's not that the teacher's understanding is flawed. It's really about how we have, how our capacity to hear the wrong things, So Gongchik helps us to refine that. Yeah. So this is not about, I think sometimes maybe people, I even suspect some people who, like decided, oh, I'm not going to do this anymore. It's because I think I might have touched on, like, oh, this Kempo or this Lama, another lineage, I said, they say this, it's misunderstood as me criticizing them. I'm not criticizing them. How their practice, is definitely way more profound than, my practice. But nonetheless, the Gongchik helps us to hear all the different teachings that different teachers are giving to different students, to help us hear them more clearly, so that we don't end up with the wrong message. Yeah, this is about us hearing what we hear. And the Gongchik can help us hear better. Yeah, so even sometimes, like those I revere and respect as guru will say things that I recognize from the Gongchik and saying, oh, I don't know what the Gongchik, and immediately at that point I need to remind myself, hey, your job is not to find fault with your guru. Yeah, your job is to now say, so whatever he said, how should I hear it? You see what I'm saying? So you don't have to like, oh, whatever the guru said, that's absolutely correct. That's also extreme. But rather, when you hear what the guru says, and then you have an understanding from the Gongchik how Kyoba Rinpoche says it, then when you recognize that there's some discrepancy, don't dwell on therefore that guru, blah, blah, blah. Rather, turn it around and say, I should be hearing it this way. Don't count other people's cows. Or in this case, it's more like, what? Don't count other people's, cow as desirable. What's not desirable? Don't count other people's, I don't know, broken vehicles or whatever. That's not your business. Yeah, so developing a clearer and clearer understanding by relying on Gilbert Rinpoche and Gilbert Rinpoche's commentators. It's not about going around judging other people whether they got it right or they got it wrong. It's about fixing our own understanding and realization. Yeah, so statement 5.9, 5.10 is another very interesting statement. But nothing new. By now, you should already, once you read that, you're like, oh yeah, of course, you know. But it's also a very provocative statement. So Monday, Friday mornings is when we have Gongchik now. We started a few months back, quite a few months back. Last year, around March, we started with 5 days a week. And then we went down to 3 days, and now it's 2. It's good. It's kind of like, you know, so that we don't get too exhausted, and also so that we don't get too distracted if we don't, if we go down to once a week. You know, that I think, and then we'll start straying away and get distracted. So I would say the greatest thing about this pandemic, and whenever it's going to end, is that the interdependence of the pandemic starting and this book, 15, 18 years in the working, released right at the beginning. That's an amazing interdependence, dependent origination. And then here we are, you know. It's been pretty impressive, you know, in that we basically, you know, didn't really lose that many people along the way. We quite stable, you know, between 20 and 25 people who have lasted this long. So it's pretty good. Yeah. So then, Drigong Dhamma Kirti meetings Wednesday nights. And so some of you, many of you are involved, but I don't assume that necessarily the two identical. But anyway, that is the Wednesday night program. So that's it for today. Y'all have a good weekend. For me, at least, this weekend is the one weekend where there isn't some program that I'm either teaching or supporting. So get to be lazy. Chanchu Semchu Rinpoche Ma Ge Ba Nam Ge Gyurche Ge Ba Nyam Ba Me Ba Ya Gong Ne Gong Du Be War Sho.
Thank you.
Ta-ta.
Ciao for now.
Gracias, Dr. Lai. Adiós.
Yeah.
Gracias. Thank you.
Adiós.